We're here at Gamescom 2025, more specifically in front of a beautiful Onimusha, Way of the Sword stand. We've managed to play the game, a small little snippet. Matt, what did you think of Onimusha?
I must confess, I've not played any of the PS2 games, but I know roughly what their deal was. It does feel like they have kind of reinvented it for kind of like the modern day. And yeah, I think it's really going to work in what feels now like a golden age of swordplay games. We've had Sekiro kind of like in the last few years and Ghost of Tsushima that really raised the bar on what those kind of games were. And I feel like this is probably going to join them. It felt like it got really sharp, satisfying swordplay.
Yeah, I must confess, I'm not really a Soulslike guy at all. So when I started playing it, my initial fear was, oh my god, am I going to be punished for this because I don't have experience with these games? But that wasn't the case at all. It found like it came quite natural. The parry window was huge. And I guess the thing for me is I immediately felt like a badass with that sword, and I mean, that's what I want. Like, how did you feel about it as someone who loves Soulslike games?
Yeah, so it may have souls in it, as anyone will know from like the PS2 days, but it's not a Souls-like. And I think the great thing is it feels like it is definitely been made for action fans rather than Souls-like fans. And sure, it does have, like, as you say, parries, and it is a game that requires skill with your blade, but the parry windows are generous. The block is an omnidirectional block, so even if enemies are coming from behind you, all you've got to do is hold down L1 and you will block behind you. All of these kind of make you feel more like you're very engaged in a way that is not quite the same tactical level as a Souls-like, but ultimately makes that sort of thrill like accessible to a lot more types of players.
Yeah. And like the original Onimusha games that, like you mentioned earlier, there's souls collecting. So from your quick playtime, what did we summarize on how that works?
Right, so there are 3 different colored souls.
Okay.
There are red ones, there are blue ones, and there are yellow ones. The yellow ones are easy. They heal you.
Okay.
So basically, if you can create yellow souls, and you can use different weapons to create different souls out of the enemies. So if you can create yellow souls, that'll heal you mid-battle rather than having to use a healing pouch. Then there are the red ones, which are your classic kind of, you pick those up, and you'll get to spend those, I presume, like at an armorer or an upgrade station. We didn't get to see that in-game, so I can't tell you like what new sword you can get or what new kind of health upgrades. And then you get the blue ones that power your Oni meter. Now this is what allows you to do even cooler abilities than just your standard kind of like attack or heavy attack. And these use special weapons that only get used in that attack. In the demo we got to use the 2 Celestials, which were these kind of twin daggers, and their purpose was to drop yellow souls.
Yeah.
So basically collect blue souls to use that special attack. That creates yellow souls that heals you, and you're only going to use that attack against like enemies that are basically doing damage to you anyway. So you start to see that cycle kind of kick in where it's like kill enemies to heal yourself to move on.
Yeah, and as someone who, I mean, we both love Doom Eternal, but someone who specifically loves Doom Eternal, that's a system that you really enjoy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, anything that, it's weird, like this is a game that's like weirdly about managing meters, because every enemy has kind of like a posture meter, right? Like, and so you have to kind of battle through that posture meter to then do damage against them, and you have a posture meter, they need to break your posture before they start doing like big damage on you. And this sounds like it's like quite a mathematical game, like it might be boring, but exactly like Doom Eternal, in the moment, you forget about the fact there's all of this maths ticking on in the background. It just feels really wicked to basically parry an enemy and then instantly decapitate them.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the posture meter, we got a good example of that of the boss that we got to play in the demo. And we say it's not Souls-like, but from my point of view, like, you know, that sure looks like a Souls boss setup. However, it was like relatively simple to take on, yet that doesn't mean it wasn't fun. It was definitely fun, but the boss didn't necessarily pose much of a challenge, would you say?
Yeah, so Ganryu, I don't think he's going to go down in like the pantheon of the greatest boss battles ever. However, I think he works as like a really good promise as what Onimusha might be delivering, because yeah, this is a fight that I guess if you were to compare it to a Sekiro fight, it's a bit like the Genichiro fight in that it's got a lot of kind of like, you're in a small kind of temple area, there's a lot of kind of like swipes, he'll do big kind of leaps and come down at you, and you have to defend against them. And basically it is about damaging his posture to the point where you can do kind of a mid-battle kind of for lack of a better term, death blow,
Yeah.
and then you fight through the next posture meter to get to his kind of like defeating blow. And so yeah, there is a bit of that kind of Souls-like element to it, and you certainly, as I say, you required skill. There's a meter in the game which, like, the more you parry, the more it builds.
Yeah.
And if you can build a successful parry chain, your sword sets on fire, all these blue sparks, and you do way more damage. And if you can keep successfully parrying, you keep that buff going, so it really rewards you for that. And I feel like that boss fight was a really good example of, like, keep that parry chain up, you know, ensure you're on top of every move that he does. And so it is about learning those moves that he can do, but you get completely rewarded for it, and then yeah, like, you get a really rewarding conclusion to that fight.
From this demo, like, I've gone from someone who, like, I played Onimusha back in the day, but I can't say I was like clamoring for it to come back, but I find myself now really excited to play this game, and I think it's because, for me anyway, it just feels like I'm in a constant state of being rewarded for my actions, and then I'm being rewarded by getting to do cool things.
Oh yeah, like this is a game where kind of like the moment you do like a good parry against normal enemies, that tends to open them up for these really, really slick takedown moves, which is decapitations or cutting arms off, and they will chain together. So if you can like exhaust 2 enemies simultaneously, you get to do a 1-2 kind of like double stab. It is really slick, really stylish, and yeah, it doesn't feel punishing, it feels rewarding.
Yeah, definitely. So there's so much more to talk about Onimusha, but I think that wraps us up there. Be sure to keep watching Gamescom 2025 coverage for all sorts of Capcom games, and probably more Onimusha as well.